right, my name is Hunter Watts. My parents are Stephen Carroll Watts and Karen Marie Hasse. My father's parents are Wayland Merle Watts Jr. and Betty George Agan. That makes Charles my direct great grandfather through my father's line. I am reading the 17th letter, dated August 12th, 1851. It's written from Charles Watts in Lamoille, Illinois, to Edward Watts in London, England. Dear Edward, I was agreeably surprised a few days since by receiving a letter from you dated May 20th. It looked like a resurrection from the dead, but as it bears the semblance of a living body, I will, as Hamlet said to his father's ghost, try to speak with it. We have just got through harvest, which has been this year long and tedious, about 2 weeks later than usual. Such a season I never before experienced in this country. Old Saint Swithin himself and all the little Swithins of old England could not match it. I hope the old fellow has not emigrated with some of his poor, oppressed countrymen. He can never be popular here, though he may bring with him a cargo of umbrellas and oilskin capes, heretofore seldom needed. This will long be remembered as the wet summer of '51, the year in which thousands of persons have been ruined and millions of property destroyed. Whole villages have been submerged near the streams, and houses, fences, cattle, and crops washed into oblivion. The large streams have overflowed their banks in many places to the extent of several miles. These rains have been accompanied in some instances by tremendous gales and tornadoes, one of which passed at about 100 miles north of this place, destroying several buildings and lives. One old lady, on persevering the storm approach, ran to the door to close it, but was instantly caught by the whirlwind and carried a distance of 20 rods and dropped into a swamp. But owing to the softness of the ground, she was not materially injured. The house from which she was so providentially snatched was torn to atoms and scattered over the prairie. Another building in which 8 persons were collected was caught up and removed 20 feet and let down upon the roof. It was again caught up and carried about 30 rods in the bosom of the tornado and finally dashed to pieces. Out of the 8 persons in that ill-fated house, but 2 remained to remember the terrific scene. We had a little wet summer in 1844, but this goes far beyond it and exceeds anything of the kind known by the oldest white settlers. An immense quantity of grains of last year's crops have been destroyed or badly damaged for want of good and sufficient storage. Many persons, myself included, kept their grains till spring, hoping to obtain a better market. As is frequently the case, the majority being obligated to sell in the fall or winter to meet their immediate necessities. But the roads have since been in such a miserable condition that it has been almost impossible to get to market with half a load. And now the new crop has come in, which in some places is very abundant. The prices have fallen excessively. The weather still continues unsettled. I will now repeat in this place that many persons in England have a very erroneous impression with regard to the physiology, etc., of this country when they hear anything relating to the climate, soil, people, and customs of any particular location. They appear to think it applies to the whole continent, or at least to the United States. This, you will observe, is a great mistake, at least with regard to the climate, of which there is almost every variety, from the torrid to the frigid, from latitude 25 to 50 and longitude 70 to 120, containing as much variety as any part of Europe from Denmark to Gibraltar. Gibraltar, there we go. Recognize. The customs will also vary with the climate, but the English language prevails throughout. Thus, while we in the Northwest have been deluged with almost incessant rains. Some of the southern states have suffered with drought in some part of Mexico. I am informed has had no rain for several months. You say the excessive cold of the U.S. are a great denial to them. This is true with regard to some parts, and yet the coldest contain the most healthy, hardy, and enterprising inhabitants. The most inconvenience we suffer here is the want of good and sufficient buildings, trees, etc., to protect ourselves and cattle. When we obtain these and can lay in a good stock of fuel, we shall have but little need to expose ourselves during the most inclement season. I am much grieved, Edward, and surprised to hear of your domestic troubles. Such things impress us forcibly and with the uncertainty of all earthly prospects. I do not know that I am competent to advise you under the circumstances, but I think I would not go to New Zealand. It is a long, long voyage and will cost you the large sum to get there. And if you are disappointed, it will cost you a good deal to get back. And you are not yet quite acquainted with the hardships and frustrations of hewing out a farm in a new country, a comparative wilderness, where you will be a perfect stranger, with few, if any, to feel an interest in your welfare, but plenty to take advantage of your necessities while you have anything to lose. The country is also under the lion's bloody paw, and probably will be while you and I exist. Were it otherwise, it is ultimately, as it ultimately will be, the case would be very different. A neighbor of mine, an intelligent Scotchman, has lived in Australia and says he prefers this country far before that. The summers are very hot, and it is difficult to obtain freehold land, while the importation of convicts supplies the labor market and infests the moral and social atmosphere. I would prefer the Cape of Good Hope, but that is also under the bloody paw, where the large animals always live on the small. If you desire to live by farming, here is a country, I think, unsurpassed in the quality of soil, facilities, and cheapness of transport, and in social and civil privileges. And industry has a sure reward. For proof of this, I could furnish overwhelming statistics if time and space would allow, showing the unprecedented increase of population and property, compared with which the British colonies are stagnant. Here is a field for an unlimited range in a few pounds will bring you to it and enable you to explore it and labor, with which you are familiar, will soon enable you to leave it if necessary. You, Edward, as also myself, are getting no younger quite fast, and most that we need is a comfortable home to which to pass balance of our days and free from care and toil as possible. Making property or a fortune for which so many pass days and years of toil and sleepless nights in order to die rich and leave our children to squander that for which they never toiled is one of the greatest weaknesses of poor human nature. A weakness for which you and I never inherited much advantage, but from which I think I am not wholly exempt. If you should finally conclude to come out here, you will not be quite a stranger as I once was, without knowing how or what to turn my hand to for a living. In my house, you can make your home till you can get better suited. In the meantime, you can leave your family at my place and examine the country as far as you feel able or think necessary to do so. Or you can work with me and take a share of the profits. My farm is large enough to employ two if properly managed. It is very difficult to obtain laborers here in the summer, and I have hitherto had nearly all the work to do alone. But I find I must either let out part of my farm or employ a hand, at least through the summer season. I have learnt by severe experience that two united can do much more than two separated, and other things besides matrimony. Your daughter can obtain plenty of employment here as a dressmaker at high prices, and your son can follow you when out of his apprenticeship. You might also bring out a variety of articles for sale, the profit of which might almost clear your expenses. Capital here will readily command from 12 to 20%. A lot of land joining mine, in which I wanted Charles Wiggins to have, in which I could have brought 4 years, since at $1 1/4 per acre, could not now be bought for less than $7 per acre, even if nothing had been done on it. It is now occupied, and I presume could not be got for less than $10 per acre. But Charles would not have it because it was near me, and I might require some of his assistance. You speak of my being far from market. This idea you got from a letter which I sent some years ago when we had to carry everything to Chicago, a distance of 100 miles. The case is greatly altered now, a canal having been made from that place to Peru at the head of navigation on the Illinois River. This is only 14 miles from the residence. Here we have the privilege of a southern or eastern market with a continuous line of water communication with New Orleans or New York. A plank road is also in course of construction from Lamoille to Peru, on which we may travel with ease and facility at any time of the year. A railroad is also commenced to run the whole length of the state from Chicago to the mouth of the Ohio River. This will much increase the value of real estate. A Yankee writing from London recently said he priced a basket of peaches in Covent Garden Market and was informed that they were only 60 shillings a dozen, about $1 1/4 each. This would here purchase an acre of first-rate land. We also learn that the Queen gave grand supper to about 1,400 persons, and peaches were served in profusion. A little ciphering will tell what the peaches for 1,400 persons cost at the above price, and this while thousands are famishing for want of few potatoes. This is dear royalty, but John Bull loves it, and it is well for him that his pocket is as long as his ears. Peaches can frequently be got a few miles from this here for 2 or 3 shillings a bushel. I observe that a strong effort is being made to reduce the enormous unions of the bishops and expel them from the lords. This is a good move. Common sense is sure at last to have its way, and great indeed will be the day for England when the charnel house shall be separated forever from the state. So poor John Aberhart is gone, the victim I fear of hard work, and intemperance. He was a great lover of that compound called beer, much of which is so abominably drugged that it is little better than poison. John, like his grandfather, was a good-hearted fellow with all his infirmities. There are many clothed in silk and scarlet, less worthy. Mrs. Pavitt, too, I regret to learn, is added to the mighty host of disencumbered souls. Thus, link by link, the living chain that bound me to Rye Hill is broken and gone. It seems but a short time since I left the place, yet how changed. How few are left that I should know, how few that would know me. Almost a generation has gone and come. I might now wander. They are like the Chinese prisoner described by Goldsmith, an object only of curiosity from which I might beg to be conducted back to my old seclusion. For what do we live and toil? We build with what we deem external rock. A distant age acts where the fabric stood, and in the dust sifted and search in vain, the undiscoverable secret sleeps. No riches I covet, no glory I want. Ambition is nothing to me. The one thing I beg of kind heaven to grant is a mind independent and free, with passion unruffled, untainted with pride, by reason my life let me square. The wants of my nature are cheaply supplied, and the rest is but folly and care. How vainly, though infinite trouble and strife, do many their labors employ, since all that is truly delightful in life, nearly all, if they will, may enjoy. 2 papers recently arrived from you. One was charged double-letter postage on account of some writing inside. I did not take it out. I have received 2 pictures of the Crystal Palace and a very interesting one of the Rent Day, for which I thank you. The storm also arrived. I have received many seeds from you, but they seldom grow. I think they get too dry. I wrote to William about a year since, but he got no reply. I invited him to come and spend summer with me in order to cure him of his conservatism, etc., etc. I wonder if he got that government office. During the first 4 months of the present year, a number of foreigners that arrived at New York was 30,157 more than in the corresponding months of 1850. But 10 newspapers are published in Austria, and but 90 in the whole of Russia and Poland that war. In the state of New York above, there are 458, of which 56 are daily. Almost every person in this country takes a paper. Some take 3 or 4. I take 3. The press, Edward, is the Archimedean lover that will raise the whole world, not the material, as Archimedes proposed, but the intellectual, which is a far greater achievement. Steamboats are now running between California and the Sandwich Islands. McManus, the Irish patriot, recently arrived at San Francisco, having escaped from Van Diemen's. He was honored with a public dinner. I have not yet stacked all my grain and have 12 or 15 ton of hay to cut yet. I commenced the erection of a barn this spring and must try to finish it this fall. I expect to do it nearly all myself. A man here is necessitated to be a jack of all trades. I am happy to say that our weather is improving, but it is still rather leaky. My potatoes are all rotting, I think worse than ever. The cause is said to be the small bug which lays nits on the leaf. These descend the stalk, enter the joints, and then proceed to the root, probably. The cholera has commenced operations again. This is decidedly a good country for sheep. Flax here is in its infancy, raised only for seed. My wife is a native of the state of Ohio and sends her respects. Herself and the 2 little ones are well. I once had a sister Mary. Should you meet with her anywhere in England, please inform her I am here and have not quite forgotten her. I think this country would suit your wife in some respects if you could induce her to come. I make beer here with molasses, hops, ginger, spikenard, and cherry bark. A very healthy drink for summer, warranted not to intoxicate. I propose to make some wines this year from tomatoes. They grow here almost spontaneous and yield immensely. We use them in a variety of ways. They are said to be very healthy, and I am very fond of them. I have thrown these few items together in a hurry this time, as you will see. I hope the hash will not be wholly unpalatable. The mail goes out today, and I have 2.5 miles to take this. Write soon and give my love and respects to all old acquaintance and friends. Yours sincerely and affectionately, Charles Watts.
Hi, I'm Barbie Martin. the daughter of Elbert Jackson and Jean Carlton Watts, and the granddaughter of Wayland Merle Watts Sr. and Allie Bernice Carlton. I will be reading the 18th letter, written October 18th, 1852, from Charles Watts in Lamoille, Illinois, to Edward Watts in London, England. Dear Edward, your letter dated August 15th arrived here on or about the 8th of the month. It relieves me of much doubt and uncertainty. I had long looked and wondered what had become of you. I did not write, presuming if you had not left England, you had at least removed from your old quarters and started in some new speculation. I could learn nothing from Anthony, my only other and once frequent correspondent, though I sent him a paper with the request to inform me what had happened. I looked for you repeatedly in the spring and early summer and wondered whether you had taken up your abode at the bottom of the Atlantic or the other side of the Pacific. I am glad, however, it is none of these. With regard to your removal to this country, I think it would be prudent to wait now till spring or the latter part of winter. With regard to the route by Quebec, it might do very well if you could be content to wait till almost midsummer for the Canadian rivers and canals to thaw. It would probably then not be so cheap and comfortable as the New York route, but it is more to the interest of the English and Canadian trade to direct the tide of immigration that way, but the immense quantity of Irish render it almost intolerable. The Erie Canal opens sometime in the latter part of April, but it is not then very pleasant traveling. It was the latter part of May when I passed up it, and we had many days uncomfortably cold and wet. There is now a railroad from New York to the lake, but I presume it is much dearer than the canal. Were I in your situation, Edward, I would come by New Orleans. The Mississippi is navigable to St. Louis at almost any time, and you could arrive here about a month earlier than by any other route. The fare is mostly less than by New York, and the vessels less crowded with passengers. But whether you could obtain a passage from London readily or have to proceed to Liverpool, I do not know. But if I were coming to England, I would take ship at Orleans for Liverpool, partly because it is more direct and cheaper, and because it would introduce me to places in both England and America that I am yet a stranger to. If you come this way, endeavor to get to Orleans by the 1st of April at least. You then proceed up the Father of Waters to St. Louis, about 1,200 miles, for which you will pay probably $6 or $8 each. At St. Louis, you take a boat for Peru, about the size of Epping on the Illinois River, about 230 miles, for which you will pay probably $2. At Peru, you are about 14 miles from my place. You can then leave your luggage at a storehouse or probably at a tavern where you may stay if you arrive late in the day. You will find a small shop near the middle of Peru kept by an English woman who sells bread and pastry, Mrs. Goddard. She will give you any immediate information you may need. You will then inquire for Lamoille on the Dixon Road. After proceeding about 12 miles, you arrive at a grove of trees, where is a public house or tavern. This is 1.75 miles from my place, which lies directly north. These people, named War, will direct you to my place. If I could know when you would arrive, I would be in Peru to meet you with my team, but I do not see how you can inform me to a day or even a week. If you should think best to come by New York, you will try to arrive about the middle of April. You will then, if navigation is open, proceed up the Hudson River, about 160 miles to Albany, for which you will pay about 75 cents, 3 shillings each. You will then take the canal to Buffalo, 350 miles, fare about $3. You then take steamboat round the lakes to Chicago, about 10 or 1,200 miles, fare about $5. From Chicago, you take the canal to Peru, about 100 miles, fare $1.50, then proceed as above described. With regard to the articles most profitable to bring here, I should say some small articles of haberdashery and cutlery would be most profitable. You could also sell some broadcloth to good advantage, at about double the English prices. but you must have most of your things made up and disposed so as to elude the duty. It is not so severe here as in England. Needles, tapes, ribbons, etc. Also some good handkerchiefs. Stockings are not used by men, only socks. For my own part, I will engage a half dozen of good cotton pocket handkerchiefs and one of black silk for the neck. My wife would like a good shawl and enough gingham for a dress or gown, about 10 yards. Also some alpaca. I would like you to bring me a good gun, a thing I've not yet obtained, though here is abundance of game. But I've hitherto had but little time for hunting, and the guns here are mostly rifles, which I think are not well adapted for small game. If you can get a thermometer cheap, fetch one along. I will satisfy you for these things, Edward, when you arrive. I would also like Guthrie's Improved Geography, but do not cumber yourself with many books. They make heavy luggage, and I think they are most as cheap here as in England. But by all means, bring a good assortment of seeds and endeavor to put them up so that they will not get too dry. This, I am informed, is the chief cause why seeds sent a long distance do not germinate well. Please to bring 1 or 2 kinds of wheat, a few grains, also 2 or 3 good kinds of potatoes. A real kidney I have not seen here. Small ones will do. If it were practicable, I should extremely like a pair of those large tame rabbits. There are none here but the small wild one, much smaller than in England. The produce of a pair of large tame rabbits would fetch a good price here. I hope you will bring your daughter with you at any rate, for I'm satisfied she would do well here. If she could be content, dressmaking is well paid. You will, of course, lay in a good stock of clothing for yourself. It is dear here and poor at that. Do not bring any heavy nailed shoes. There are scarce any stone or gravel here to cut them out. The soles without nails will last as long as the uppers. In laying in your clothing, provide for 2 extremes, very light for summer, very thick for winter. I should much like a suit of clothes for everyday wear if you could tell how to guess at the size. Those I brought from England lasted me about 4 years, a fustian coat, moleskin pants, and a plush vest with sleeves, a very useful thing. All woolen goods are very dear here, also linen. Good flannel cannot be got here for less than about 50 cents or 2 shillings per yard. Bring a few mangel wurzel seeds and lucerne if easily obtained, also some flower seeds and bulbs. We are very deficient in these things. We need something more to cheer and enliven our homes besides pork and potatoes, or even the all-important beef and pudding. Have you read the autobiography of Alton Locke? I believe I should like the book. Also a good map of England and anything else you may think useful and interesting. We have had a very dry summer, thus one extreme follows another. Last year, we was deluged with almost incessant rains. This year, almost none. As much water would fall in 15 minutes last year as we have had this season in 3 months. We now have what is called our Indian summer, beautiful, dry, warm day with frosty nights. A smoky haze hangs constantly in the atmosphere, caused, I presume, by the burning prairies in the far west. An immense flood of Mammonites have gone to California this season, probably not less than 60,000 by land. What a few years since was an almost unknown and impassable wilderness has now become a well-beaten highway. A few years hence, and nothing less than a railroad across the continent will satisfy these thirsty and impatient worshipers. Probably as many have gone by sea as land. The vessels have all been crowded and passages engaged for months ahead. Were I to go to the Pacific coast, it would not be to California, but to Oregon, which I believe to be a very fine country with a very salubrious climate, much warmer in winter and cooler in summer than this, and resembling England in many respects. You will probably want information with respect to your provision for crossing the Atlantic, and in the first place, endeavor to secure a berth as near the midships or back part of the steerage as possible. You will thus avoid much of the rough, unsteady motion that is felt near the forecastle. I was not aware of this till too late, and consequently had one of the worst berths in the ship. If you can get some good homemade bread well baked, it would be a great help to you. Also, plenty of captain's biscuit, but do not buy the miserable trash sold at the outfitting shops, about half bean or pea meal, not fit for a respectable dog. You will want but few sweets, but anything of a tart nature is most agreeable. But little meat will do, such as ham or bacon, or something that needs but little cooking. A small keg of cider would be excellent, and a cask or even barrel of beer. You might find sale for it at a great profit. Have plenty of fruit and vegetables. At the bottom of your potato box, you might stow some of your goods that might otherwise be exposed to duty, but the customs are not so strict here as in England. Were it convenient, I should much like one of those little Scotch Terrier dogs. The rats here are increasing to an alarming extent. Nothing is safe from them. Even the house is being undermined. We have no good rat dogs, and cats can accomplish but little. I have frequently put out poison, but where one is killed, I believe a dozen come to the funeral, and the poor cats are the first victims. I could write much more if I thought it would do any good, but I have now an opportunity of sending this to the post office, about 2.5 miles, and must draw to a close. It is a hasty, mixed up mess at any rate, but I hope to be able to exchange letters again before you start. It is a busy time with me now, and I have only one pair of hands to do everything. I have to acknowledge the receipt of a couple of newspapers. I have since learned the news of Wellington's death at last. Poor old Tory. We hear nothing of Kossuth now. I hope he is preparing a volcano that will shake the scum from all the stagnant waters of Europe soon and topple feudal despotism and ignorance to the bottom. Give my love and respect to all friends and accept the same from yours very sincerely, C. Watts.
I'm Cheryl John Watts Cargill. I'm married to Douglas Roy Cargill. My parents are Charles Carroll Watts II and Johnny May Wells. My paternal grandparents are Wayland Merle Watts Sr. and Allie Furnace Carlton. This is the 19th letter dated March 22nd, 1865. From Mary Watts Wiggins in Woodford Wells, England, to Charles Watts in Lamoille, Illinois. My dear brother, I cannot tell you how pleased I was to receive a letter from you on the 18th of last month. I never received one so quick. It being noted the posted the 1st, I therefore will answer it by our post, which is every Thursday from here. I was likewise very pleased with your wife's and your own likenesses. I should not have known you had I have met you. Still, when I look into it, I find it is very much like William, but he is stouter than you. I do not know whether he has told you he is now living in Woodford. They came last September and are not more than 10 minutes walk from me. This is very nice. His wife is kind, good-hearted woman, and I have every reason to believe a sincere Christian. His daughter was married on the 1st of September last, and I believe they are in good circumstances, living in Peckham. You asked me if I have heard from my son. I have not, since he re-entered. Then it was Charles who wrote to tell me he had done so. I cannot write to him because I know not where he is, but I do think it strange he never writes to me. I heard once from Eliza he had placed some money in Charles's hands, stating if he did not return, it was to be sent to me. But Charles did not name anything about it in his last to me, which I received December 1863. I answered it and have not heard a word since yours of the 18th of last month. You ask me if I have a sufficiency for necessary comforts. I have not. Owing to my not having yet paid off the mortgage on part of the property, or etc., I think it will be paid off at least for another 12 months, though I have no more repairs done than is actually necessary to keep the tenants quiet. All I have to live upon is 20 pounds per year. Out of this, I have to pay rates and taxes. My health is not by any means good, either, as it's been for some years, and I have to keep my sick daughter, who I fear will never be able to do anything except a little needlework. So you see, what would not keep me, I have to make keep two out of. My children are all very good to me as far as they can be, or I should be much worse off than I am, having many heavy doctor's bills to pay within the last 4 years, having had so much sickness. My eldest daughter, Mary, was married last September and is settled at Bath. She is very comfortable. Ellen, the second, is the one at home, ill. Emma is living in Buckinghamshire in a family as upper nurse. Alan is in a grocer's shop in London. He is now in his 20th year, and Watts, who has just turned 16 years, is a cheesemonger in London. Not with Charles's brother, as I had stated he was when I wrote to Charles. He treated him so shamefully, I took him away. He is one of the worst tempered men that can be imagined, a perfect brute. He, Joseph Wiggins, I mean, married Thomas's eldest daughter, a very bad match, not at all fit for a tradesman's wife. They have no family, are in a good business at Hammersmith. I'm sorry to hear your health is not good. What a mercy you have a son to assist you in your work and can have every comfort you need. And your eldest daughter, no doubt, being brought up in every domestic character to help her mother. Your wife must be a kind-hearted woman to bring up a dear motherless child. Great praise is due to her, and should it live, I hope it will endeavor to recompense both her and you. We have had a cold and severe winter, and this month is as cold as it were at Christmas. We have very sharp fronts with snow and hail almost every day. Such a March is scarcely remembered. You ask about the rickets of Rye Hill. There is only one in England, Salome. She visits me occasionally. She chiefly resides in London. She has some property, although not much. She spends a deal of her time with her cousins at Parndon. The farm that they had at Rye Hill is held by John Rickett. He does not live there. So I do hear now and then about those of her family. All of them are in Van Diemen's Land. The eldest, Mary, is now a widow in good circumstances. She, you will remember, was my only acquaintance when young. The rest I know but little about, having had so much trouble and sickness. I seem to have forgotten them. I am now in my 64th year. Edward was 62, the 18th of last month. William was 60, the 27th of last December. I dined and spent the day with them. Then was Anne, then Emma, then you, who I must think was born in 1812. I have no memorandum at all, but this I know, that our births were in my mother's handwriting in a very large prayer book, not in the large Bible, because I have that. I think Anthony or Thomas had it. I was not aware Edward lived so near you. I am sorry he secluded himself from all who keeps his house. Remember me to both Edward Jr. and Emma. I'm happy to hear they are comfortable. What a being our brother must be! Who can he take after? I suppose he will desire to have all buried with him, that no one may enjoy his self. I'm very sorry to hear such an account of him. You say you have plenty of money in your country. I have heard you have, but it's paper money, of no value in this country, only in America. How true it is, I know not. I can tell your awful war makes your cotton goods very dear, and many other articles we could buy before. Good calico at 6 pence per yard. Now the same article is 1 shilling and 4 pence, and 1 shilling and 6 pence. In fact, everything is very dear, except bread, that is, and has been for a long time. 6 pence for 4 pounds loaf meat, I can get but little of, as beef is 8, 9, and 10 shillings per pound. Shoulders of mutton, 9 pence per pound, such as I have bought of best quality for 4.5 and 5. We used to sell American cheese, excellent at 6 pence. Now we give 9 and 10 for no better. So you will see those who have but little and not able to work have a hard task to go through. Should you see Charles Wiggins, give my kind regards to him. Likewise, I should very much like to hear from him. I cannot send you my likeness this time, not having had it taken. It is not done here. It requires a journey to town where I seldom go, but as soon as I can have it taken, I will. Should your wife ever have hers taken again, she must take off her glasses. Many I know who wear them were told to take them off, as the eyes would then shine, but they will not with them on. I hope I shall soon hear of or from my Thomas that he is well. Perhaps you may not have written to him before you receive this, and will beg of him to write to me soon. Likewise, I hope you will write as soon as you feel disposed again, and not wait for me. For my will may be good, but my purse weak at present. I must now conclude with my kindest love to your wife and children, in which Ellen joins me, and believe me to remain your affectionate sister, Mary Wiggins.
Hi, my name is Alexandra Lee Bailey Grambling, and I am the daughter of Mickey Karen McKinney and Sterling Bailey. And I am the granddaughter of Barbara Ann Watts and Otis Lee McKinney. I am reading the 20th letter, dated January 25th, 1868, from Charles Watts in Lamoille, Illinois, to Alfred Watts in Chicago, Illinois. Dear Alfred, Your letter came to hand, and we are glad to find that you are getting along about as well as could be expected. You have probably by this time concluded on your course of studies and of the ultimate object you desire by them. I am considerable of a utilitarian, and I look upon it as a busy idleness to spend valuable time in learning what will be of little or no ultimate benefit in the common affairs of everyday life. The rich may do it with impunity, but not those who have to work and wait. I hope you will strive to improve in what you partially know already, especially your writing and composition, and strive to know yourself physically and mentally. An excellent writer has observed that it is much more necessary to endeavor to mind the heart than stuff the head, and that Christians in general have more need to have their spirits improved than their understandings informed, and want more zeal rather than more light, better temper rather than better notions. 'Tis virtue only makes our bliss below, and our best knowledge is ourselves to know. Pope. There is a little book entitled Mason on Self-Knowledge. I wish you could get it and read it carefully. It is a gem. Another excellent book I would urge you to read if you can get it is Ven's Whole Duty of Man. I think both of them can be got at Holmes Bookstore, 170 Clark Street, or perhaps you can borrow them. Harper's have published a good work on Latin entitled Principia Latina by W. Smith and Dressler, and highly commended by professors and others, part 1, 2, 3. But you probably have your books already engaged. Since penning the above, I have received a letter from Herman and you. I thank him for the same, and especially for his kind effort in your behalf. You must consider yourself under great obligations to him and respect him accordingly. There is nothing on earth so valuable as a sincere friend, especially one who is worthy of your friendship and esteem. Therefore, I charge you to render yourself as much as in your power worthy of him. My next letter must be to Herman himself. If you value your reputation as I trust you do, I charge you to keep as much as you can from light, frivolous company. There is much of this in the world, not really vicious, but trifling and worthless, male and female. Keep clear of them both, if you wish to attain perfection in anything that is great or good. Another thing I would especially urge on you is to shun all connection with secret societies and their votaries. If man cannot help his fellow man without being joined to him by some sinister link, he is wholly unworthy the friendship or assistance of his species. It strikes me that when several of you are together, you could avoid much expense by boarding yourselves. It is far from degrading to anyone to economize and work. Remember, you have launched yourself onto a sea of which you know not the depth or extent, and my vessel is too frail to help you much. But it is said that God helps them that help themselves, so may it be. You speak of avoiding tea and coffee. This is good, and I hope you will ever shun that abominable but fashionable nuisance, tobacco. But it does seem to me that some reduction should be made in the price of board when these things are dispensed with. I would willingly make a difference of 50 cents per week at least, and then be a gainer. As you advance, I trust you will find out or see through many things that now obscure or are not tangible to your mental vision. The paper you refer to has arrived. Vinnicut is a new name to me, but he mentions many names with which I have been familiar. I presume the discourse was very interesting. Something of the kind will always be interesting to me. I suppose you have any amount of reading matter, and I trust that which is good. The popular task now is for light, frothy literature, and I believe it will ultimately produce a race of mental imbeciles. The meeting of our schoolhouse are still kept up. I went one evening when it appeared to me the main effort tended only to produce something to laugh at. That poor Frank boy still lingers, a mere wreck of humanity, tormented with the consciousness of being a self-murderer. God only knows how many self-murderers leave or linger in this world. for it makes but little difference whether the effect be immediate or distant. The crime is about the same, nor does it make any difference in a moral sense whether the instrument be a pistol, a wine cup, gluttony, self-abuse, or sensual or sexual debauchery. The end is the same and leads alike to premature death. War slays his thousands, but impotence and sensuality destroy their tens of thousands. Their name is legion, and no man can number them. They shriek and sink, survivors start and weep, pursue the same sport, and follow to the deep. Cowper. Occasionally, recreation is necessary and valuable, especially when the mind is improved as well as the body. Your mother desires you will not forget your duty to God. This is your primary obligation. Eleanor has not been here yet. We expect them. Neighbor Avery has been quite unfortunate. He has lost a colt and 2 calves this season. So much for news. It is meager enough. Do you get the Standard? It is a good paper and much improved. The number for January 23 has some good pieces, especially those signed HNG. Emily has concluded not to write this time. I presume she does not like to expose her hand. They all join in best wishes for your welfare and with our best respects to Herman. We remain sincerely yours, C. and M.A. Watts. 30th. The weather has been too cold for us to get to the PO till now, Wednesday, 10.5 below zero.
I am Meg Stovall. My parents were Jean Carlton Watts and Elbert Lynn Jackson. My grandparents were Allie Bernice Carlton and Waylon Merle Watts Sr.
And I'm Stephen Carroll Watts. I'm the son of Waylon Merle Watts Jr. and Betty George Agan, and the grandson of Waylon Merle Watts Sr. and Allie Bernice Carlton.
This is the 21st letter dated February 18th, 1868. It is from Emily and Charles Watts in Lamoille, Illinois, to Alfred Watts, who is in Chicago, Illinois. Dear brother, we are well and hope that this will find you the same. Now, you must not laugh at my letter, for you know that it is the first one I ever wrote, and please don't show it to anyone. I get real lonesome here, but guess you don't. You have so much company. I go to school pretty steady. I study arithmetic, geography, reading, writing, and spelling. We have reading school every Friday night and prayer meeting every Tuesday night at the schoolhouse. Father and I went to reading school one night. Mother has gone to prayer meeting every night but one, and then she was at Lamoille. I went with her one night. We have speaking and essays at school every other Friday. I wrote one composition. No, I didn't write it either. Father wrote it, and he composed most of it. There is a great deal of illness around here. There were 3 funerals last Sunday in Arlington. They were all children. I don't know whose they were. We had a debate at school yesterday. The question was that fire is more destructive than water The affirmative side beat. There was a donation party at Mr. Hamilton's last Thursday. They gave Elder Fargo $53 and they gave Sam Curtis more than $100 to buy him a horse with. Sam wants you to write to him. I wanted to write this letter before your birthday and send it so you would get it then, but I did not begin it soon enough. But I guess it will do just as well now. But I cannot write anymore, so I must close. Write soon. From your sister, Emily Watts.
Underneath Emily's signature, Charles added the following. Mr. Betts's eldest boy is very sick, not expected to live. Consumption, I believe. CW.
I am Ava Lewis,
I'm Parker Lewis.
and we're the children of Kim Love Lewis and Blake Allen Lewis. Our grandparents are Kay Love Jackson and then James Leon Jackson. Yeah. I'm reading the 22nd letter, December 17th, 1868, Charles' last letter, from Eleanor and Charles Watts in Lemoyle, Illinois, to Alfred Watts in Chicago, Illinois. Dear brother, we thought that we would write you a short letter, for it is not worth while to write a long one, because you are coming home so soon. We are all well, and I am going to school to Lemoyle Timber. I am chopping board wood for our WAF for $1.25 a board. That is my school that I am going to. We have got a letter from Olds, and they have left Nebraska and have gone to Missouri, where they like it first rate. You see, that won't be so far off as the other place. How did you get along, that cold snap? Did you freeze your feet? Did you keep warm? It was all we could do, and one cold day I had Alfred tied in a chair by the stove, and he tipped over on it and burned his hand and chin. Then Father and Vic butchered the old hog yesterday, and day before Vic traded off our old stove and got another and a better one. Last Tuesday evening Mother went to prayer meeting, and last Sunday Vic took them to church. That is all the news at present, and goodbye till you come home. From your loving sister and brother, Ellen and Vic Huffman.
Charles added the following. Your mother wishes you to get half a dozen of Wilcox and Gibbs sewing machine needles. They can be obtained at Cornell and Company's 133 Lake Street. They are or were $1 per dozen. Emily wishes you to get her a box of colors and 2 or 3 brushes. They can be found at the picture and frame store. I think you can get a good kind for 50 or 60 cents. Emily wrote you to get her a book, but as she does not know what kind she wants, I think you had better omit the book, as we have plenty of reading here, and get her an extra good box of paints. If you have an opportunity, get a Family Christian Almanac for $69, Holmes 170 Clark Street. I enclose for the above $1.25. Yours sincerely, C. Watts. Your mother would like the Memoirs of Fletcher if they can be got cheap.
sit down and write a long letter to all the good friends I've known. And I'm gonna try to thank them all for the good times together. Though so apart we've grown. One of these days I'm gonna sit down and write a long letter to all the good friends I've known. One of these days, one of these days, one of these days, and it won't be long, won't be long, won't be long, won't be long. And I'm gonna thank that old country fiddler and all those rough boys who played that rock and roll. I never tried to burn any bridges, though I know I let some good things go. One of these days I'm gonna sit down and write a long letter to all the good friends I've known. One of these days, one of these days, one of these days, and it won't be long, it won't be long, it won't be long, it won't be long. From down in LA all the way to Nashville, New York City, to my Canadian prairie home. My friends are scattered like leaves from an old maple. Some are weak, some are strong. One of these days I'm gonna sit down and write a long letter to all the good friends I've known. One of these days, one of these days, one of these days, and it won't be long, it won't be long, it won't be long, it won't be long. One of these days, one of these days, one of these days, and it won't be long, it won't be long, it won't be long, it won't be long. One of these days, one of these days, one of these days, and it won't be long, won't be long, won't be long.
Shadows are falling
and I'm running out of breath. Keep me in your heart for a while. If I leave you, it doesn't mean I love you any less. Keep me in your heart for a while. When you get up in the morning and you see that crazy sun, keep me in your heart for a while. There's a train leaving nightly called when all is said and done. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sometimes when you're doing simple things around the house, maybe you'll think of me and smile. You know I'm tied to you like the buttons on your blouse. Keep me in your heart for a while. Hold me in your thoughts, take me to your dreams, touch me as I fall into view. Keep the fires lit, and I will be right next to you. Engine drivers headed north to Pleasant Stream. Keep me in your heart for a while. These wheels keep turning, but they're running out of steam. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Keep me in your heart for a while. Heart for a while. I'm gonna cross that river, I'm gonna catch tomorrow now.
You're gonna wanna hold me just like I always told you. You're gonna miss me when I'm gone.
Nobody here will ever find me, but I will always be around. Just like the songs I leave behind me, I'm gonna live forever now. You fathers and you mothers, be good to one another. Please try to raise your children right. Don't let the darkness take 'em, don't make 'em feel forsaken, just lead 'em safely to the light. When this old world is blown asunder and all the stars fall from the sky, remember someone really loves you. We'll live forever, you and I. I'm gonna live forever, I'm gonna cross that river, I'm gonna catch tomorrow now. I'm gonna live forever, I'm gonna cross that river, I'm gonna catch tomorrow now. I'm gonna live forever, I'm gonna cross that river, I'm gonna catch tomorrow now.
Those memories of you still haunt me every night when I lay down. I'll always love you, little darling, until the day they lay me down. In dreams of you, my body trembles. I wake up and call your name, but you're not there, and I'm so lonesome. Without your love, I go insane. Those memories of you still haunt me every night when I lay down. I'll always love you, little darling, until the day they lay me down. I close my eyes and you're there with me. Your kiss I feel, your face I see. It's not your lips now that drive me crazy. It's just your haunting memory. Those memories of you still haunt me every night when I lay down.
get back to Lake Charles. He used to talk about it. He'd just go on and on. He always said Louisiana was where he felt at home. He was born in Nacogdoches. That's in East Texas, not far from the border. But he liked to tell everybody he was from Lake Charles. Did an angel whisper in your ear and hold you close and take away your fear in those long last moments? We used to drive through Lafayette, that's home, in a yellow El Camino, listening to Howlin' Wolf. He liked to stop in Lake Charles, 'cause that's the place he loved. Did you run about as far as you could go? Down the Louisiana highway, across Lake Pontchartrain. Now your soul is in Lake Charles, no matter what they say. Did an angel whisper in your ear and hold you close and take away your fear in those long last traveling north to find you. Train was beating the wind in my eyes. Don't even know what I'll say when I find you. Call out your name, love, don't be surprised. It's so many months and so long since I've met you. Don't even know what I'll find when I get to you. But suddenly now I know where I belong. It's many hundred miles and it won't be long. It won't be long. It won't be long. It won't be long. Nothing at all in my head to say to you. Only the beat of the train I'm on. Nothing I've learned all my life on the way to you. Only our love that's over and gone. It's so many miles and so long since I've met you. Don't even know what I'll find when I get to you. But suddenly now I know where I belong. It's many hundred miles and it won't be long. It won't be long. It won't be long. It won't be long.
Alfred and Emma Jane, they had Wayland and Charles Carroll, right? What
Right,
were the
I don't-
names? What were the names of the first two of Pop's children
That would have been Waylon
and Charles Carroll?
and Charles. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And I was trying to tell Allie a little bit about your dad because he's the only one she was never able to meet.
Yeah.
And, you know, I told her, I said, well, you know what? I said, of course, you know, they grew up calling mom and daddy Barbara and O. And
Okay.
I said, if Barbara could talk to you now about it, she would tell you she idolized her oldest brother. I mean, I think they were all close. I think Mama was the brat of the bunch.
Wayland Sr., you know, he had Wayland Jr. and Charles Carroll Watts II because
Mhm.
he was named after his uncle, not his dad. So our Uncle Carroll was the second. Then my dad had Wayland, and my middle name was Carroll. So those two names continued for 3 generations, but the Charles Carroll name kept going because our Uncle Carroll named his oldest Charles Carroll Jr. That's Chuck.
Pop did not talk much. And I mean, I still have just vague recollection. I mean, I can remember when they put him in over at Milledgeville.
Yeah.
And I can remember Meg and Barbie and I don't know if Julia Lee did, but we would all go over there with Mom and Jean to see him. But, you know, he just wasn't a hands-on, totally opposite of Mom. And I don't even know if you have very many memories of Mom, but.
I don't have any memories of either of them. I don't
Okay.
even know if I met either of them. It's hard for me to imagine that I didn't. I have no memory of Mom and Pop. I have a memory that I don't know if it's invented or not. So this would have been, see, he died in 69 or 70. This would have been maybe after Dad retired from the Air Force. I have this memory of being in a darkened room and a guy was on a bed, and I went in with my dad and sat there for a bit, and I don't remember interacting with this person at all. I don't know if that was him or not. And, it's one of those questions that came up too late when the people who could answer it weren't around anymore. So I don't know if ever met either of them. Like I say, it's hard to imagine I didn't, but I
She
have
didn't know. What is that? What is the age difference between you and I? I was born in 55.
58.
Okay.
But
All
see,
right.
we were all over the place. I mean, we were never around you all.
You were. And I see she died when I was in the 4th grade. And I remember that so vividly because everybody came. Mom and Daddy had not been long in the house on Green Oak Terrace. And none of us kids went to the funeral. Johnny stayed with us.
Really?
And of course, we were all running around like wild hoodlums, I do not remember you or Butch being there. And I don't really remember
I know I didn't go to the funeral.
any of Johnny or Carol's kids being there.
I
So it might
remember
have been just parents.
I remember when he died. So
Now I'm thinking of Mom.
oh,
Now I
Mom-
think Mom, I don't remember what year she died. It would have been whenever I was in the 4th grade. And anyway, whenever that was.
Yeah.
I think she was only 69 though when she died.
Yeah, it was. I want to say she died in 64.
Okay.
And when she died, that's when Pop kind of went downhill mentally.
Right. Right. And I don't even remember much about his death or funeral. I remember hers, but I can remember they lived on Beach Avenue. I can still see the house. She had a swing. She would always have she'd make lemon ice cream floats, and she used to that sous vide honey that came in the tubs. We would get to take big spoonfuls of that and go sit on the porch. And honestly, those are just some of my vivid memories. Mom and I talked about one time, I remember the dark room that he had for his photos. And anyway, that was kind of neat. But I will start going through this, and anything I think that you might use. I mean, we're 30 minutes away from each other?
Right. That dark room that you remember, my dad built that for him.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And see, I remember just snippets of grandmother. She was living there with them. And just almost like something you would see out of the old West to me, the dresses. And
one thing that struck me from the 10th letter is in answering the question, what should an immigrant bring to America? I mean, you can't help but think that in asking that question, he may have been hoping for a particular range of clothing, or what kind of weather am I coming into? Do I need something warm and cold? And Charles tells him, these big ideas. What did he say? Perseverance and something else. It's really an interesting mind.
Did you ever know Carol?
I vaguely, it's Johnny and
Yes.
Carol, right?
Yeah.
We went to Blairsville. We went up there when I was little, and I remember because Johnny made some kind of buckwheat pancakes, and that is, as a kid, it was like, what is wrong with these pancakes? That's what I remember.
Okay.
So yeah, I met them, and I don't know if they would have. There was some kind of, and you may have been there too, and I was just little. There was some kind of family reunion.
Yeah, we were there
at Indian Springs.
Yeah.
Well,
Vogel State Park.
That's it. Well, look, it was real neat to me the other day when we had that initial meeting, and Mickey's her screen didn't work.
Yeah.
And I guess that was her daughter, Allie, was trying to fix it for her.
Yeah.
Well, the whole time I was sitting here, and when Allie's picture would pop up, I would say in my head, I know that name. Like, I've not met her, but why do I know that name?
Yeah.
And it finally occurred to me, Allie was a baby at that family reunion, and I held her. Like, I remember there are pictures of me, and it was Mickey's baby. There's pictures of me holding Allie. I know, I can remember vaguely
That's pretty good.
holding somebody's baby at that reunion, and it clicked with me the other day that was her.
Yeah.
Well, and sure, the same with you. It was busy growth. Like, we were all in sports.
Yeah.
We would go down to see my grandma and grandpa, kind of like what I do with my mama. I mean, I try to get up there about every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we were growing up. We would go to Forsyth, or Daddy would go down there on his own, but no, I mean, I knew the immediate family, my grandma, my aunts and uncles, and all my cousins, but outside of that, I don't have a memory of Waylon and Carol and Johnny. I have little snippets
Yeah. Yeah.
of all of them. So, but no, and Mickey, like, I recognized her on the video the other day. And obviously I knew Andy and Mark, but no, I mean,
Yeah.
that's when Allie said that about living in Macon. I was like, well, I guess that makes sense. I don't know why it didn't occur to me that there were, because we would literally go down to my grandma's and be there. Like, we didn't, go see anybody else.
It's always interesting what's interesting enough for someone to spend this kind of time on. Like an artist, I've recently been challenging myself to learn to draw. I've always wanted to be able to draw and eventually to paint watercolor. And the most challenging thing about it, I've discovered, is not making the lines or even perceiving the shadows and the values. Certainly difficult things and things that require a lifetime to master.
Mm-hmm.
But here at the outset, the hardest thing is deciding what to draw. You have a world of possibility.
Yeah.
So you say to yourself, I'm going to draw a face. Okay, whose face? What angle? Settling your gaze on a thing is in and of itself a difficult undertaking. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of what he's done here in these poems, especially if he's picked something else to sketch and then he's putting his own twist on it. It's interesting to see what he chose. This poem indicates a dear love of London and all of its contrasting. There are these things put side by side, houses and churches and gamblers and prostitutes and businessmen, and this bustle of everything smashed together. And you get a sense that he had a deep affection for all of those scattered, disparate parts. He loved the broadness of the world. He wasn't narrowly, attracted to any one side of society. It seemed he loved it all.
It's easy. I don't know how I did with it, but and I should have thought of this a little bit ahead of time. It's easy to think you're being more energetic than you are.
Oh.
Because I've occasionally have done some recording in our church for like if we've done a voiceover video or had our pastor inviting something, and I'm always coaching him to use the upper part of your registry. Like this is your pitch range. You want to be up here, but we all tend to be kind of down here.
Yeah.
In this lower section.
Interesting.
You got to really go up, and you're going to feel like you're being too buoyant or whatever. But
yeah,
and I wasn't even thinking of that. I wasn't trying to be that way, but I think a letter kind of can tend to need that low key because they're just, you know what I mean? They're just writing and it's personal. I don't know. Maybe it feels more. And I call myself a recovering perfectionist because I still have some tendencies, but I've learned this statement in my work. Done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. Sometimes you just have to get it out and move forward.
She'll say 5, 6, 7, 8. So I don't know if it's like girls dancing at daycare or something.
Oh yeah.
We haven't done 1, 2, 3, 4 yet.
5, 6, 7, 8.
8.
Whoa.
Good job.
All right.
Where's your nose?
Where's your nose?
There it is.
Where's your ear? Good job. Where's your eye? Good job. Where's your mouth? Good job. You nailed it.
Yay.
High five. High five.
Good job, Natalie. Oh, you see Leah? You see Leah, doggy? Say hi, Leah. Oh, hey.
Good wave. Good wave.
Yes. Oh, that's a big dog, huh? No blowing kisses today.
You want to do a somersault?
Oh,
Num, 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 num. You need a snack?
are you hungry?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mommy got you some strawberries yesterday. Yeah.
I think we need to hide those because they're becoming a problem.
Oh boy. Is that her favorite?
By far. Which, I mean, there's worse snacks for kids to be addicted to than
Sure.
dehydrated strawberries.
Yeah. You're upside down.
I don't know if I've caught this before, but is he referencing, where was it? Where he's talking to Edward about how Edward referenced that he was far, on the 3rd page of the letter, when he says, first full paragraph, you speak of my being far from market. This idea you got from a letter which I sent some years ago. Is he referring to letter 3 that I just read, where he was talking about being far from market?
Barbie keeps saying, and I'm all for it. I agree with it. She says, we need a cousins reunion.
Yeah.
I said, Barbie, you plan it. I'll be there.
Was it Barbie who did the last one up in Blairsville?
At Vogel,
Yeah.
Vogel State Park. Yeah, and y'all were there.
Yeah.
Karin was pregnant with that.
Andrew, would you mind showing folks your setup there?
Yeah, no problem.
I don't think any of us had equipment like this behind us, in front of us.
So it's so I share so my bedroom and my office are kind of a shared space, so I have it separated out by a privacy curtain or whatever you call one of these things. But yeah, so on the desk I've got my laptop with the stand and then the second monitor, and then I've got the microphone and the boom arm over here, And then up here, Yamaha HS8 studio monitors. Those are the fun things. And then a couple of LED panels just to be able to light things up. So the story behind that is when the pandemic hit, I was I'm a learning and talent development person, so corporate training and leadership classes and all of that kind of stuff. And I went from 75% of that kind of interaction being face-to-face in a classroom to we had to figure out how to virtualize it all. And I figured out very quickly how unpleasant it was. For 8 hours a day, it's okay. Like for casual gatherings like this, it's cool. But for 8 hours a day to be surrounded by, incautious and not very intentional setups. And there was one fellow based out of Phoenix who had a professional camera set up and good lighting, and he had a microphone. And it was just like all of a sudden when he would start speaking, everybody just felt better or wanted to hear it. So I, early in the pandemic, kind of built this kind of setup, and then just like, I don't know, really enjoyed it, really love it. Mom's come over here before and listened to music on the studio monitors, and they're something else.
It just highlights the range of setups we've got here. So we've got Andrew sitting in a professional recording studio here while Meg's running around her backyard tossing sticks to her dog.
You don't need to see my face or anything, so I can hold my paper up in front of me and read from.
I do want to see your face.
I thought I might have skipped a line there at one point, but I think I got it all.
One down.
Yeah. No, Steve, I had forgotten all about this until the reminder popped up yesterday, and I'm like, oh crap. So I called Barbie, and Barbie said, well, I read mine 3 or 4 times and I made notes and told myself where to pause. And I'm like, anyway, I'm glad it's done.
Whew. It was good to get through those numbers.
You're on mute.
And I had to look up salubrious. That's not a word I use every day.
I skimmed through them and I thought, oh, this one is talking about gardens and fruits and vegetables. I can do gardens and fruits and vegetables.
Oh, I got through it. I was afraid I wouldn't get through it. So.
All right. Great job, Allie.
Oh, that was a lot.
I love that. A volcano that will shake the scum from all the stagnant waters of Europe.
Yeah, he was certainly a strong-minded and independent thinker. So you can see how he might butt heads with people from time to time.
All right.
All righty, we're done. Mark me off your list.
Your mother would like the memories of Fletcher if they can be got cheap.
That's memoir.
Oh.
Just reread lessons.
Your mother would like the
Memoirs.
Your mother would like the memoirs of Fletcher if they can be got cheap.
We're done. That's okay. I said they were lovers. That's
Well, I met a boy from Grassy Branch, fine as he can be. I met him at the big barn dance, and he took a shine to me. Sky blue eyes, a big white smile, and tall as a sycamore tree. He's real smart with a real big heart, and he's gonna marry me. He's gonna marry me, and we're gonna go to town. We're gonna buy us a real good car, and we're gonna drive around. We'll hold hands, touch and hug. He talks so sweet to me, 'cause he knows a lot about love and stuff, and he's gonna marry me.
the Mardi Gras.
This is us in your daddy's car. You and the missing link.
Yeah, I had a little too much to drink now.
Too long in the sun.
Having too much fun.
You and me and our memories. This is us. This is us. This is us. This is us. This is us.
You're walking at the barbecue.
Yeah, when we said I do. And driving on the ballroom floor. You in that wedding coat wore.
And you in that amazing dress. I was stoned on love, I guess.
You and me, we were meant to be. This is us. 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 This is us on a honeymoon in a hotel room, sitting by the wishing well, checking out of the love motel,
Making plans for the Sunshine State.
waiting at the terminal gate. You and me making history. This is us. 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 And our baby boy,
With our pride and joy.
you at the Sunday game, standing next to what's his name.
On our anniversary. With the family.
You and me and our memories. This is us. 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 This is us.
May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. May you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung. And may you stay forever young. May you stay forever young. May you grow up to be righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous, stand upright and be strong. stay forever young. May your hands always be busy, may your feet always be swift. May you have a strong foundation when the winds of change shift.